Hello, folks. Back again today with Unmaking a Murderer. Today's Strategy 9. Before I get into that, I want to go ahead and talk about something here. There's been a lot of, talk about these books. A lot of books have come out. You got Sean Atwood, you got Jerry Buting, you got Ken Kratz, and you also got a few books out there that have been written by Michael Griesbach, who is the DA in Manitowoc County, who helped out with Stephen with his first exoneration. So he has quite a bit of knowledge, particularly regarding the Penny Bernstein rape situation. He has written a couple books, so you got a lot of books out there. And the thing is I want to go ahead and encourage everybody to pick these books up and read them, and they're good. I mean, they're good books. But don't take everything at face value in the book. Okay, think for yourself. Okay, when you read it, go ahead and let the book kind of spark an idea of interest in your mind. Like, read about a situation in the book that makes you go, I wonder what's going on there. Or read about it in Kratz's book. Trust me, these books are all talking about the same situations. They're all talking about the same situations, but what's different is that with Kratz or Griesbach, you're gonna get the side that believes they're guilty. You're gonna get the side that sees the whole situation from a side that believes they're guilty. And that causes them to see it their way, in a certain way. And I can respect that. I've told many people that believe they're guilty, I can respect the way they feel. I can respect that they believe they're guilty. I can respect that they feel that way. But then you're going to get, the other side. When you read Sean Atwood or Jerry Butings or, whatever, you're going to get it from the other side. You're going to be getting the perspective of somebody who sees that there is some kind of corruption there, and they're not willing to just casually look aside. So you're going to get two different sides, and they're not going to see it exactly the same way. So that's why I implore you to read these books, get an idea of the situations, and see what situations you find intriguing or that you want to take an interest in, and then find somebody that, go out there and ask somebody on Twitter. Get out on Twitter, say #MakingAMurderer. Hey, does anybody have the Avery documents? Trust me, if you put #MakingAMurderer on it, you're going to get about 5 or 6 people probably within an hour that are going to be giving you Avery documents. And they're just going to give you the link that takes you right to the StephenAveryCase.org or whatever, and you can then navigate that site, and you can find everything, the jury transcripts, all that, everything, the CASO reports, which is basically all the reports that were filed in the course of this investigation of Stephen Avery. So hey, it's all there. It's all that stuff's there, and you guys can make your own determination. I implore you to take these books and look at them and just use them to give you an idea to where you want to navigate if you want to look into this further, or read both sides, get a fair opinion, make a level-headed decision about what you think about all the facts in this case and the situations in this case. So that's all I just wanted to say that and give everybody that little piece of advice. Just think for yourself and look into it for yourself too. Everybody's got a point of view, so you got to take that into account. All right, so we're going to move on now. Strategy 9. Strategy 9 is hire sociopathic prosecutors. And we know, of course, Sean Atwood is definitely thinking of Kratz when he says that. So, what is a sociopath? Well, a sociopath is a person who exhibits abnormal behavior. They basically are interested in only themselves and how things can benefit them. Everything revolves around them and what they're getting and what's in it for them and that sort of thing. But they also have no concern for who gets hurt in their pursuit of this type of this type of behavior when they're seeking whatever it is. Sometimes it's attention, sometimes it's money, sometimes it's whatever it is. So when they're seeking these things, they have no concern for the people that get hurt in the process of them getting what they want. So that's basically what a sociopath is. Basically, they're perfect when it comes to wrongful convictions. They basically lack that moral compass that would generally stop any of us from doing something that we know is wrong, well, they kind of just lack that, or it's a lot more muted with them. So it makes them perfect for going after wrongful convictions, or going after people where, for whatever reason, a county or state or whatever is like, no, we need to get this guy. They call in people that have, sociopathic lawyers with sociopathic tendencies, because they're going to ask less questions. They're just going to do what, they're just going to chase the conviction. So that's what makes the sociopathic lawyers particularly uniquely suited for going after the wrongful convictions. So then in this chapter, Sean moves on into talking about Ken Kratz's OLR review when he was up in front of the Office of Lawyer Regulation, and it was all due to the sexting scandal that he was involved with. And Sean goes through a lot of the sexting that happened, like some of the content of the sexting and stuff, and he lists basically a lot of items and shows kind of the progress of Kratz's litigation, or proceedings with the OLR. And he shows a lot of things, but he comes to this one particular point after talking about all the sexting that I just was like, wow. This is one of those things that you just go, holy crud, man, this guy, he is something else. He was trying some kind of case or whatever. It wasn't like a criminal case or anything like that, but he had a witness that was there to testify, and the witness was expressing to him that they were nervous and stuff, and his response to this person who was expressing their unease about testifying was like, relax, I won't come in your mouth. Like, what? Are you kidding me? You okay, wait. You're the person you're going to be asking questions on the stand, who's expressing the fact that they're uncomfortable, and you thought that statement was going to be the thing that made them loosen up and feel better? Really? I mean the level of bad decision making that went into that statement is staggering. Seriously. So, but anyways, hey, that's Kratz anyways. So then we'll move on to the fact that Kratz, in these proceedings with the OLR, at one point towards the end, he's basically like trying to praise himself. He's trying to praise himself because he's trying to get more leniency from him. And he's basically kind of praising himself, saying, well, yeah, I self-reported. So, I should get some credit because, I brought myself here and self-reported myself to get myself under control, whatever kind of thing. But that ain't the truth. That really isn't the truth. The DOJ told him that he should self-report. You can't, the cat was already out of the bag when he self-reported. The victim had already gone to her local police station. She'd already reported it, and the reports had already gone to the DOJ, and the DOJ had informed him that he should self-report to the OLR, and he did. So trying to take credit and praise, and like trying to get the OLR to praise him because he self-reported. Well, he didn't. He did, but he didn't really. He self-reported because he knew the jig was up. That's really all that comes down to. So it was mainly just damage control. So him trying to seek praise and further leniency there is just ridiculous. Okay, so in the end, the referee basically noted that Kratz was seeking help for his addictions and for his, Percocet or not Percocet, but Ambien and Vicodin and Xanax and whatever it was. So it noted that he was doing all those things, and there was a lawyer that he contacted from he was connected with the OLR, who was actually mentoring with Kratz while he was going through his addiction recovery process. And the guy actually ended up coming in and testifying, I guess, is essentially saying that Kratz was really working the addiction program and really working his recovery and blah, blah. So all these things added up. So basically Kratz gets 4 months suspended. law license. That's it. Not 4 months in jail. 4 months of his law license got suspended for 4 months. That's it. He had to pay some money too. I don't remember exactly how much, but there was I think a fine. He ended up getting that pled down a lot too. He didn't end up having to pay nearly as much as he originally the numbers were going to be. So he ended up getting that number way down too. So anyway, he basically, there was one thing that he basically was able to escape that made it possible for him to escape off on this, and that was that the victim that he sexually abused was actually she had a lot of problems. And it made her lack credibility. She didn't have the credibility to be able to testify in court. So basically the Department of Justice or whatever was unwilling to pursue the case because they just didn't believe that a jury was going to believe her, and that's essentially what it came down to. Now we'll move on to this woman named Wendy Murphy. So she was apparently a guest on the Nancy Grace show when I guess Nancy Grace was out at one time, and this gentleman, Harold something, was sitting in for Nancy, but he asks this woman who's on the show, who's a prosecutor, about the Avery case and stuff. And she goes on to say that she didn't believe that Stephen was innocent of the first rape. She seriously didn't believe that he was innocent of the first rape. Now, I don't know if she just didn't bother to look into it and she's just towing Nancy Grace's line. I don't know. But look at all the things with the first case. I mean, can you really have any doubt? I mean, she then goes on to say, sarcastically, "Good job to all the people that got him out of jail. You let a guy out because you said he was innocent, and now look what he did." Well, a lot of us don't believe he did that. But the other thing is, I think it kind of just shows Stephen. It's hard for me to believe that Stephen Avery got a fair trial because you got people like this woman making crazy statements like that. A lot of people had judged Stephen guilty because Manitowoc wrongfully set him up for the first crime, for the Patty Bernstein rape. I mean, and there's tons of evidence that it was Gregory Allen. So, yeah. It's crazy. It's nuts. That woman is, she's something else. She says, "I'm sick of DNA lies." DNA lies? I'm seeming to remember a 7 low-key identification through DNA. I bet you Wendy doesn't have any problem with that DNA. I bet that DNA is telling the truth. So, and I believe it is too. But I just want to point that out. That I'm sure she would cling to that 7 low-key like it's the Bible. Like it's God's word, it's itself. But that to me is sketchy because technically 7 low-key isn't enough. So just food for the thought. Anyways, so then we'll move on now to Nancy Grace. Nancy Grace. Nancy Grace is a former prosecutor from the state of Georgia. She was drummed out, essentially. She had 2 cases where she had actually opinions written against her, where she had run fast and loose with the moral ethics of her, of her job or whatever and stuff like that. Basically, and then there was another one where she had gotten law enforcement officers to lie on the stand or whatever. And so this is like how Nancy Grace is. So this has always been the way she is. And she believes everybody's guilty. Everybody's guilty. There's no cop or prosecutor can ever be wrong. That's like seriously, almost like that's like what she thinks in her head. That somehow because you become a prosecutor or something like that, that you are suddenly somehow immune to being wrong. That's interesting. But anyway, we'll move on from that. Nancy Grace is not very fair-minded, in my opinion, and she lacks objectivity. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. So that's just what I believe about Nancy Grace. But I also believe, I think, in her own mind, she means well. So then he goes on to talk about Peg Lautenschlager. She is an interesting, individual. She was the attorney general or whatever it was at the time, and she was opposed to getting on board with the whole Avery bill, the whole Avery task force and all that. She was just reluctant. She was just not wanting to be a part of it and didn't want to have anything to do with it. And so that was fine. She didn't or whatever. And then we go on to the investigation of what happened with the Patty Bernsen thing. And lo and behold, eventually, MCSD is found to have done nothing wrong. That it was just poor communication between law enforcement agencies that allowed that to happen. Yeah. So it kind of shows you that pretty high up the ladder, there was some shadiness going down. Now, let's move on to something else about Peg. Peg was at one point driving a government vehicle home from non-government business, apparently. And she was drunk. Just drunk as a skunk, man. Totally over the limit and everything. Well, she ended up falling asleep at the wheel or whatever, drunk. Rolled into a ditch. The car was, I guess, kind of beat up or whatever, but she was fine. She was inside of the car and she was unhurt and whatever. A law enforcement officer pulled up, found her. They actually did arrest her. And all that. She had a blood alcohol content of 0.12. That's pretty high. That's really high. You are pretty damn drunk when you got that much, when you got a BAC like that. So, she tried to claim that she only had 2 glasses of wine. Yeah, I don't think so. So she ended up getting off with just a fine and pretty much nothing. Slap on the wrist, Typical, really. I mean, look at it. It happens all the time with prosecutors and people like that. Consequences don't really find them. It just doesn't happen usually. So, and so then we move on to Sean talks about now a guy who's known on YouTube as Juan Tescrew, and he's basically like a political insider from Wisconsin that is remaining anonymous. I think probably for obvious reasons, but he talks about things that going on there, and about he talks about how interesting it is how this corruption, this particular ball has gotten passed from player to player to player throughout the years here through time. It all started out with Vogel and Peterson and Kocurek and Bushman and all them back in the 80s or whatever. And then we move forward into the 95 era where Colburn ends up fielding a call that he basically does nothing about, but remembers, because trust me, the day after Stephen Avery gets out, he remembers he got that call. So what does that tell you? It tells you that even at that time, Andrew Colburn knew that call was significant. So he talks about how over time this ball just got passed, to new players, to the new kids, the ones taking over, So he talks about that, and he just talks about how interesting it is that ball gets passed. People choose to continue this on their own. So he suggests that it all has to do with, because it was actually reported that Milwaukee is the hub for human trafficking, and he suspects that there is a drug and a human trafficking ring that's operating there that is just terribly afraid of getting discovered. And this whole thing with making a murderer has now really focused a spotlight there. And so that's what he's getting at, that that he thinks that there's definitely something underlying that is very sinister. So it's interesting. Like I said, go ahead and read the chapter for yourself. Go ahead and check out Juan's videos for yourself on YouTube. And like I said, drill into the documents, get the information that's in there, look at the way things went, and make your own decisions, make your own determinations. And that's the thought I want to leave everybody with. So if you haven't already, please hit subscribe. And that's it for Strategy 9. We'll see you, folks.